Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Swing Good Torah. Alright, so we're going to see an incredible thing about Parsha Vayigash, and we're going to see the amazing relationship between Yosaif and Binyamin, between Joseph and Benjamin, and we're going to see that the love between these two brothers and the love that Binyamin has for his brother, and then the love and the brotherly love is going to be the cure to heal the hatred that the other 10 brothers had for Yosaif, and why it was the mechiras Yosaif, why it was the sale, why they sold their brother Joseph into slavery to Egypt and caused all the problems. And this was the beginning of the sinas chinam, the hatred without any cause in the Jewish people. And we see that this sinas chinam for thousands of years has caused us a lot of trouble. It was the reason for the destruction of the first and second Beis Hamikdash, the first and second temple. And this hatred within ourselves has caused us so much trouble. But our unity, when we have the brotherhood and the love for each other, we see that we can do great things, and we can see it brings the unity of the Jewish people together. And when we are united, when we're strong, then it brings also the unity of Hashem into the world. We're going to see all the great things that can happen. Okay, so Yosaif arranges for his brothers to come back down to Egypt because there was a famine, and the famine was, we see that Yosaif, he interprets the dream of the Pharaoh, the famous dream, the prophetic dream about the 7 healthy cows and the 7 unhealthy cows. There's going to be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So the only food was going to be in Egypt, and the brothers had to come down from Israel to buy food for the family. And Yosaif arranges that he puts the money back in their bags that they paid for the food, and then he gets them to bring Binyamin back down. So when Yosaif has a reunion with Binyamin starts to tell him that he had 10 sons, and then he named every single one of his 10 sons after his brother Yosaif because he had such love for him. So we see it's incredible. So if someone really loves their brother or sister, and then chas v'shalom, they pass away or they're gone, and you may, in their memory, you may name one of your children after them. But to name all 10 of his sons after Yosaif, it just speaks of this great love that he had for his brother. So the Midrash tells us the significance of every name. So the first son was Bela, and he named him that because Yosaif was swallowed up by strangers, and he doesn't know where he is. And then he names his son Becher because Yosaif was the Bechor. He was the firstborn of their mother Rachel, or their mother Rachel. They names another son Ashbel because Yosaif was taken captive. He names another son Gera because he lives in a strange land. He's a Ger in a strange land. Naaman because Yosef's actions were beautiful and wonderful. He names another son Achi. He was my brother from both father and mother. Rosh, he was my leader, and he's destined to be the king of all the Jewish people. Mupim, because he was physically and spiritually beautiful. Chupim, because he wasn't at my wedding chuppah, and I wasn't at his wedding chuppah, and just the sadness of not being at his precious brother's wedding, and that his brother wasn't in his wedding. And I are aired, because his face was like a rose. So it's incredible. So all throughout the years that Yosaif, was in Mitzrayim in Egypt, sold into slavery, Binyamin loved his brother so much, and he was constantly thinking about him, and he felt that extreme loss. So we see here a great love between two of the brothers. Okay, so what happens is Yosef grabs Binyamin because he planted a silver goblet into Binyamin's bag. He says that Binyamin was a thief. And he says that you have to leave Binyamin here as a slave, and then the rest of you can go free. So this was a test. So what Yosef HaTzadik was doing, what Joseph the righteous one was doing, is he was giving the brothers a chance to do teshuvah. He was giving them a chance to make up for the great avera of selling him into slavery, and give them the same opportunity where they're faced with the same situation, where now Binyamin is being threatened that he's going to be a slave. So he's testing them to see if they'll save Binyamin, unlike when they sold him into slavery. So then Yehuda, we're going to see that a line of kings is going to come from Yehuda. The most famous, of course, being David HaMelech, King David, and then his son Shlomo HaMelech, Solomon. So there's a great line of kings. And the natural kingship, when it passed from Reuven, the firstborn, Yehuda was then considered to be, he was worthy of being the king. So all the brothers looked to Yehuda as a king. So Yehuda begins to defend Binyamin. Now, Yosaif and Binyamin, they both had the same mother. They were from Rachel. And Yehuda, and then his 5 brothers, they were from Leah. So he begins to say, so he's defending Binyamin, who's also, brother of Yosaif from Rachel. So he says, Binyamin's innocent, and you accuse us falsely. And this was the opportunity to come to the understanding that the brothers should come to the understanding that they also falsely accused Yosaif. So the Tiferet Sion, he said that Yosaif told Yaakov, their father, he told them that the brothers had eaten an aver min achai. They ripped off a live limb from an animal. And this is one of the Sheva mitzvos b'nei Noach. There were 7 mitzvahs, there were 7 commandments given to all the sons of Noah. And that means like all of mankind, is responsible for keeping these 7 mitzvos, these 7 commandments from Hashem. And so if someone eats an aver min achai, it's one of the 7, mitzvahs not to do. It's cruelty to animals. It's just not a, dignified human way of eating. And that someone would be chayav in a beis din. They would be chayav, they would be forfeit, they would be guilty. They would have to give up their life if a court found them guilty of this. So the brothers thought, according to Tiferet Sion, that he was accusing them of this, and that they were worried that because he would take them to a beis din, he would take them to a court, and they would be, given a death penalty. So since he was trying to kill them, they felt justified then, in bringing him to a beis din, him to a court, because he was trying to come after them and kill them. So it was like a rodape, someone chasing after you to kill you, and then the Torah says that you're allowed to defend yourself. So they saw it as they were uprooting a thorn from the vineyard. They saw that, they didn't believe when Hashem gave Yosaif the dream that the 11 sheaves of wheat, all the brothers would bow down to him. Hashem was giving a prophetic dream to Yosaif that he was going to be king, but they didn't believe it. They didn't believe it. And this starts this sinas chinam. It starts this baseless hatred because they didn't believe Yosaif's dream. They didn't believe it was really prophecy that he would be king. And another thing that angered them is Yosaif was speaking what the Torah calls diba. He was speaking lashon hara to their father Yaakov. But what they didn't understand is Yosaif was trying to help them grow spiritually. He wanted to see them grow into their greatness. They saw it as he was trying to harm them, he was trying to take over, and then he comes up with these dreams that he's going to be king. What they didn't see is that Yosaif was really acting like a king. He was looking out for the welfare of his people. He was trying to uplift his people. He was trying to make his people greater, but they were hating him for it. They didn't see that he was just trying to uplift them. He was trying to help them grow spiritually, and that's why he was telling their father. He was telling their father so the father would be able to teach them, the Torah, whatever they were missing to help them grow. But they saw it as he was trying to be like an usurper. He was trying to usurp the throne, which at that point they felt really belonged to Yehuda. So Yehuda then offers that all the brothers will become slaves if Yosaif will just release Binyamin. He says, Binyamin's innocent. He said, you put the money, back in our bags, and the silver cup you put in Binyamin's bag. So this is going to be kapara. This is going to be atonement for selling Yosaif into slavery. So just as they got money for selling Yosaif into slavery when they falsely accused him, here he's falsely accusing them of being thieves, and they're going to get a kapara by now standing up for Binyamin. So Yosef asks Yehuda, he says, why do you act as a spokesman for your brothers while they don't speak? So this is said in the Midrash in the Breshis Rabbah. He says, and so what he's really asking is why are you acting like a king? It's you falsely accused me of being a king. Hashem sent me a nevuah. Hashem sent me a prophetic dream that Hashem told us that I'm going to be king. But now why are you acting like a king? You were so mad and angry at me when you were saying I was falsely claiming to be the king. Now why are you acting like the king? So Yehuda answers, he says that he had pledged himself for Binyamin. He told his father, if I don't bring him back, I will lose my share in both worlds, in Olam Hazeh, this world, and Olam Haba, the world to come. That's according to the Yalkut Shimoni. So Yosef answers back, he says, your other brother was not a thief. He's speaking about himself. He said, and he didn't mean you any harm. So Yosef now sends the Egyptians out of the room, and he asks, and he reveals himself. He says, Ani Yosef. So Ha'od Avinu Chai, he says, I am Yosef, I'm Joseph. Is my father still alive? So what is going on here? So Yosef says, I'll treat you like brothers, even though you sold me to Egypt. He said, don't grieve at having sold me, and don't be angry that I am a king. He says, Hashem sent me here, and it was not caused by you. He says, all of this is in the hands of Hashem. All of this Hashem caused to happen. Hashem gave the dream, to send me down here, that you would sell me and come down here, and there's all Hashem's plan, and that I would become king, and then I would be able to help the Pharaoh, with the famine, and that the world would be sustained. So all the time, Yosaif was really acting like the king, and Yosaif was going to be the king. But we see something very fascinating here. So there's actually 3 lines of kings in the Jewish people. So there's Yosaif, and through his son Ephraim is a line of kings, and the famous leader after Moshe Rabbeinu, after Moses, was Yeshua ben Nun. And the first king, the first of the Mashiachs that we'll see return, will be Mashiach ben Yosef, who's a descendant from Joseph, through his son Ephraim. Then the other famous line of kings is from Yehuda, David HaMelech, King David, and his line of kings, and we'll see the coming of Mashiach ben Yosef. But here, and Binyamin's love of his brothers is Vayigash. It's what brings them all together. Binyamin's love for his brother Yosaif, the true brotherly love, the true way a brother should act to another brother, or you should act to your brothers and sisters, the true love we should have, for our siblings, is what starts to heal this rift and bring everyone back together. So it's very fascinating. So when Hashem he anointed the very first king for the Jewish people, when he sends Shmuel HaNavi, Shmuel the prophet, Samuel the prophet, when he sends him, he anoints actually a descendant of Binyamin. He chooses Shaul HaMelech. He chooses King Saul to be the first king. And the quality, one of the most important qualities that the king needs is he has to have concern and love for his people. So because Binyamin had such a love of his brother, Hashem chose that that's the quality we need to unite the Jewish people. And we see here what starts to happen is we see the amazing rachamim. We see the forgiveness that Yosaif has for his brothers and how he's giving them a chance to do teshuvah, to get kapara, and he's not mad and angry, and he doesn't try to get revenge on them. He simply gives them a chance to do what he was always trying to do the whole time. Just help them grow, elevate them spiritually, help them be the best people that they can be, and then sustaining everyone, sustaining them with food and whatever they need, to learn Torah, to do the mitzvahs, to grow. And then we see the complete turnaround in Yehuda. Whereas Yehuda fell, he wasn't the king. Yehuda, who's supposed to protect, the mighty king that's compared to a lion, who's supposed to protect his people. The king is supposed to look out for the welfare of all his people. And instead of looking out for the welfare of the young little 17-year-old Yosaif, the scared little boy, he sells him cruelly into slavery. But now he's a chance at teshuvah. And what he does is now Yosaif stands up for Binyamin. Now Yehuda acts like the true king here, and he stands up for his brother Binyamin. And he helps do anything he can, even sell himself into slavery, even give up his own reward in Olam Haba. He'll do anything he can to save Binyamin. And we see here now that Yehuda also acts like the true king. And Vayigash means, and he came close. And we see them all unite together here. And that's what B'ezrat Hashem we're going to see in the future. We'll see Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David, and they'll act towards each other with great brotherly love, that brotherly love of Binyamin. And they'll unite the Jewish people together into one people again. And when we're united, then it shows the true unity of Hashem in the world. It shows the true unity of this one infinite being. There's one infinite being that's created everything. And when we see that everything comes from one source that loves all his children, all of his sons and daughters, everything that Hashem's created, all the people that he's created, all of mankind, and the world sees that unity of the Jewish people and sees that everything comes from one source of life, then it unites the whole world. So Vayigash is about the kings coming together and then bringing the Jewish people together. And then B'ezrat Hashem, one day we'll see Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David unite all the nations of the world into this beautiful unity, living in peace with Hashem. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you back again soon on Sweet Good Torah.